Episode 152 of the TV Dudes podcast, recorded October 4th, 2017. Fall Comedies.
I really wanted to make a provocative comment about Tina Fey, something that would really catch listeners, make them want to click on our thumbnail.
That for the title?
Yeah.
The episode you want? What would you want to do?
I don't know, something like
I got Tina Fey pregnant.
Yeah, or Tina Fey washed up, never gonna work again, or I don't know,
You'll never work in this town again.
Think of the most
Faye.
implausible or stir crazy type thing, something that would make people go, "What? No, I'm gonna click on that."
You won't believe the 17th reason Tina Fey won't be working TV again.
Da da da.
What if we just called the episode "Tina Fey is dead?" ?
Tina Fey is dead! Exclamation point! Dot ellipses. Question mark?
Oh, we could have called it. We could have called it "Liz Lemon is dead."
That's true.
Oh shit!
Long live the real Tina Fey.
Missed opportunity. But hey, you know what? We're going to be a little bit more straightforward this week.
Just a pinch.
Because we are talking a ton of sitcoms and comedies in general. Not all of them are sitcoms. We're talking about Rick and Morty, Great News, The Good Place, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Mick, Ghosted, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. So,
dang, that's a lot of TV.
Is that it? Is that all the ones?
you know what? We might touch on a few others.
Okay.
But these are the ones that are slotted in for actual discussion.
There's a lot.
That's a lot.
There's a lot of comedies.
We usually try and do 2 to 3. So for us to have 7 on there, we're going to have to do some lightning round talking on some of these.
I feel like the show, though, is indicative of the TV watching right now. It's, every week you have a bunch of 30-minute long shows, and you just batch them together, and you go through them one by one.
This is going to be binge mode for you listeners.
It's like drinking from a fire hose. It's a lot of fun, but it could kill you.
Hey, guys, we are the TV Dudes. I'm Grant.
I'm Randy.
And I'm Kyle.
And before we get into that episode, we want to say a couple ways you guys can support us. If you guys want to head over to...
Head there.
I'm not even going to tell you how to spell that. But you guys go and
The fans
try
know.
and enter in that URL.
It's .net, by the way.
It's a .net. That's going to really trip people up. Anyway, go to iTunes. You can give us a 5-star rating, write a little review for the TV Dudes. That's a great way to help us out. You can also go to patreon.com/TV Dudes and make a per episode pledge. You are the people that are allowing us to do what we've been doing. We've been able to move into a studio. We've expanded. We're doing other shows. We've joined up with a podcast network, and we're collaborating with more people. And all of this is due to you guys and your patronage, you guys helping us out and keeping us afloat and allowing us to continue to grow and try new things. We are playing with video right now, which is kind of cool.
It's great. Kyle didn't have to sleep in his van anymore.
You know what else?
He's sleeping in the studio.
He's sleeping in the studio now.
Well, you know what else our Patreons afforded us? We have a fan. We can't use the fan while we're recording, but while we're not recording, we can use the fan.
Hey, fan, no talking
So
while
it
you're
kind
in the
of
room with us.
But
Oh, you mean like a fan that gives air?
Yeah,
to
the
us.
fans bought us a fan.
Oh,
exactly. I wasn't really trying to back you guys in that, or was I?
But here's the thing: the air conditioning in here sometimes a little bit squirrely.
Yeah.
And sometimes that fan is a lifesaver. So we thank the fans for that fan.
But is it really a lifesaver? Because we can't get good audio recording and use the fan at the same. We need like a silent, like Dyson something fan that like blows up our undergarments while we're podcast recording and is super silent,
like in a sexy, silent way.
Hell yeah.
I mean, we really need to get that video going if we're going to be this sexy. Anyway, patreon.com/TV Dudes. And thank you guys for all of your support. We're going to be talking on Patreon about Dyson fans, I think.
The Dyson episode.
Also, we wanted to mention we are part of the Permanent Record Network.
Permanent Record.
We are excited to be members of the Permanent Record Network. And we want to promote this month the Mr. Robot O podcast. This is Mike Moody's baby. This is the one that he first kicked off doing a serialized, dedicated podcast, just Mr. Robot centric, and he's been killing it with it.
Yeah, and that's in the DNA of all the permanent record. Like, it's one of the was the template that I used for Beach Cop Detectives in some ways. Mm-hmm. It's a similar template to what's used on the Star Trek Discovery Pod.
Yes, sir.
It is the originator, the great granddaddy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And season 3 is coming out soon, guys, over on USA. It's going to be on October 11th, but I know they're already starting to do some pre-show. So go to permanentrecord.com/podcast/Mr. Robot O. That's OH, or just look up Mr. Robot O.
That'll also work.
Also, you guys should have subscribed already and written a 5-star review for them.
But you can do it now and we'll forgive you.
Or right now, pause this episode, go do that.
If you have the new Siri update for your phone, just say, Siri, subscribe to Mr. Robot OH podcast.
and write a review for me.
Yeah, and write a review, and it'll do it automatically.
Yeah,
I bet it'll
probably
do it all
wash your
week.
car.
Yeah, that's part of the update too.
They really upgraded Siri. That's impressive.
It's good times.
I mean, she will probably track those movements and report to Skynet, and when the Terminators come, it's going to be easier to find you, but
Worth it.
worth it.
All right, guys, listener questions. If you like us on Facebook, once a week, you guys can ask us whatever you want.
Literally whatever.
But doesn't mean we'll read it.
No.
All right, first question comes to us from Jonathan Haptemichael. He says, hi, dudes. If you were a bad place torturer, that's in reference to the show The Good Place, what would be your specialty form of torture? Be creative. Like penis flattener creative, he says. Whoa, that's some pressure to put on us.
I have 2 words for you, gentlemen.
Literally.
Okay.
Ear pretzels.
Ear pretzels.
I would turn ears into pretzels.
Um,
Still connected. I would twist your ears into pretzels. Artistically.
now, no, so like salted, like are they edible pretzels?
No. They're just your ears, but they're shaped like pretzels, like different kind of pretzels.
Does that mean I can hear better?
No, it's much worse.
Really?
Yeah, really hurts. Terrible hearing.
Okay, here's my thing. I would force you to have to watch Big Bang Theory from finish to start.
Ah.
I mean, it's bad enough.
Finish to start, like in reverse?
Yeah. It's bad enough that you have to watch it, but now if there is any sort of narrative thread, you're going in reverse.
I imagine this being like one of those college fair trade show things where Grant has his table where it's like, your torture for eternity can be watching Big Bang Theory. And then I have a table right next to him where I just stick toothpicks underneath your toenails and make you kick walls.
Oh, God.
And you actually mull over the choice. You're like,
Yeah.
I'll take the toothpicks.
The toothpicks sound bad, but that's a lot of Big Bang Theory to get through.
Yeah.
You have to. And then you have to repeat
Sheldon's
it.
now young. Is that included?
That's bad. Yeah.
We're tacking on young Sheldon.
Prequels.
Because you got to go from the ending all the way to the beginning, which means you got to go to young Sheldon. When they do the inevitable baby Sheldon spinoff, that's going to be in there too.
Sheldon babies.
Sheldon sperm. All right, guys. Next question, and I apologize for that. Paul Mampilli says, so it has been revealed that Rick and Morty have the worst fans on television. But who do you think have the worst TV fans? I'm going out on a limb, and I may be hated for this, but I think Game of Thrones fans can really grind me down, and Simpsons can be unbearable. But I really enjoy The Simpsons. What do you guys think? Worst TV fans?
The super heavy, like, theory crunching Lost fans are the worst.
Fuck you.
I actually don't. I guess I don't engage with that much of fandom, so I don't notice it that much. The fans that bother me are the fucking Big Bang Theory fans that come to my shop and are like, "Oh, you guys are just like Sheldon." Those are the fandom I hate.
Ugh. This is an easy one for me.
Yeah?
Doctor Who fans.
Really?
Easy. Well, everybody has their own doctor.
Yeah.
And if you get into a confrontation with somebody and you guys don't have the same doctor, I've seen words thrown. These are people who you're like, we like the same TV show, and it's like, no, you're dead to me. you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Man, I'm so torn. Like, do I say like the Bachelor fans? Like, oh, they're terrible.
The Apprentice.
Or, man, I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Bachelor. Those people, You're the worst.
What do they call them? Are they called Rosies? What are the Bachelor fans called? What do they call themselves? Batchies?
Groomsmen and brides.
Groomsmen and
Maids.
brides.
Forever a bridesmaid.
Batchy heads.
Batch heads.
Next question, guys. Zach McLernan says, with the end of season 3 of Rick and Morty having finally come, do you think that the show may have been better served by its shortened season order of 10 episodes? Due to Roiland and Harmon's creative differences, it is possible that the key items were lost in the 4 eps that were cut, such as dealing with Evil Morty and the Phoenix person story. Moreover, Harmon has stated that the finale was retooled as a result, I guess, of this episode order cut. And more importantly, he also asks, are we getting Szechuan sauce on the 7th?
I'm not going anywhere near a McDonald's on the 7th.
I haven't gone to McDonald's in 15 years, and I think I'm going to keep it that way.
See, I started going back after the damn Szechuan sauce episode got me craving chicken nuggets.
Not
Guys,
worth it, buddy.
I will go pick you up some Szechuan sauce. We can try it.
I kind of want. Oh, I like this. I kind of want the sauce. That's a good video.
Yeah.
We can try out some
I'd love to
Szechuan
try the sauce with like other nuggets.
Yeah, that'd be a nice of you. Go get some Chick-fil-A nuggets because they're just better.
Well, no, we should get some of the Burger King chicken fries, McDonald's chicken nuggets, Wendy's chicken nuggets, and Chick-fil-A nuggets.
We don't have a White Castle here, do we?
There's no White Castle.
White Castle has a thing called chicken rings. They're like onion rings, but chicken.
I just did a side-by-side comparison of 6 places nuggets. It was Chick-fil-A by far.
Hands down.
You know what's interesting is if you compare them, but you're using the Szechuan sauce, it's the same thing. Right?
It doesn't matter. I guess it's just a vehicle for that yummy, yummy sauce.
Yes.
So I don't know what I'm talking about. But what do you guys think about the first part of his question, the shortened season order?
So to address something in there, they've joked several times that whole bad press they got about creative differences and like that being the reason why the show was taking so long was just blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
And what I think is actually happening is next season they've got 14 episodes. Mm-hmm. I think that what they're going to do is like a Christmas episode or another one-off, kind of like we saw at April 1st.
Yeah, maybe so.
And it would make a lot more sense that that's where we would see Tammy and Phoenix Person possibly team up with Evil Morty, or I imagine that it would be a 3-way, everybody's motives kind of take them and put them at odds with one another. Yeah.
I liked this season. I didn't notice anything particularly missing, although now when he says things like Phoenix Person and Evil Morty, I'm like, yeah, I do kind of want more of that.
Yeah, they did sort of drop those. All right, next question comes to us from Kian Ibanez. Says, hey guys, at the TV dudes. Oh, wait, hey guys, at the dudes of TV.
That's correct.
Ooh.
Randy brought up Trial and Error on a podcast a while back, and I loved it. This made me think of this question. What other genre could get a new spin or twist with mockumentary style, like Trial and Error did for crime dramas? Mine is about to go completely left field, but I think the superhero genre could really use that comedic effect, but not about superheroes, but about the villains. Picture this. Goofy Rogues Gallery. All right, Randy, relax. Of Flash trying to show how villanesque they are, trying to become famous, and they're followed by a camera crew, and they're always being thwarted by the Flash. What do you guys think?
I believe you guys had possibilities, didn't you?
I do kind of like this villain idea.
Yeah. My idea was kind of villainish. It would essentially be Sopranos.
Okay.
But done
yeah.
like mockumentary style. And you would make the characters much, much younger. So you'd be talking about like the teen, like the post-teen or like the young college age kid. Mm-hmm. Kind of like a Jersey Shore type age. But then they've got like the James Gandolfini type dad who they're trying to impress, or who knows.
I think it would be interesting to try and do outright horror with a mockumentary style, because the juxtaposition would be very jarring. Like, you're trying to build up tension, but then you just go to the interview cam where they're like talking about like,
right.
Yeah, so like, when the ghost came in and started talking to me, I thought that was a little bit peculiar.
Could you do like a Ghost Hunters but mockumentary?
Remember that show Fear?
Yeah.
Where people used to go around MTV Fear with the camera thing, and like, yeah, but it wasn't mockumentary, I guess.
No, they were really afraid.
I don't know.
See, I keep thinking that Trial and Error was the lawyers.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Cops has been done as a mockumentary. I mean, Reno 911 essentially was a Cops mockumentary. But that means they haven't done Doctors, right? Have they done a Doctors mockumentary on like maybe Children's Hospital? Which is sort of its own thing.
Yeah, but I don't
Like-
think they ever like interview them, right?
Right.
Children's Hospital.
I think a Doctor's mockumentary, something along the lines of Scrubs, but with a sort of an updated style, less of the wackiness of Scrubs and more of a, this is what, I mean, the Scrubs was based on real doctors and sort of the gallows humor and that kind of thing, but something like that shows that they're all too human and you get the sort of the interviews and that kind of thing. I think you could do a fun show like that.
I bet it would have lots of like poop humor in it.
Yes.
Because whenever you talk to like medical professionals, it's always poop stuff.
Yep.
People who are sick are always pooping.
Ali Render Porter says, finally listen to you guys and watch The Good Place.
Ooh.
And the first season was so good. I've loved the first 2 episodes of season 2 so far. But is it sustainable? Already not seeing how this show makes it interesting for season 3.
I think the thing with The Good Place is it's a Mike Schur show. And if you look back on what they did with Parks and Rec, they kind of put the pedal down and just kind of go forward because there's always more story.
I'm so impressed. And we're definitely going to go more in depth when we talk about this in a bit. But I'm so impressed that this show doesn't follow the formula of what you would think a TV show of this style would, where they really like tease something out through a whole season. They jump right in, cover that, and the cliffhanger is where you think a mid-season would be.
Yeah, I mean, the first season you're watching, and they do a few of those, and then you realize this is just the speed of the show. Like, every time I think they're going to do something, they're going to hold something out for a while. No, they deal with it, and they move on to the next cliffhanger. And that is a dangerous way to write, because you could wind up writing yourself out, but they've got a whole, like, cosmos to deal with, like the good place, the bad place, the medium place, all that stuff.
It makes sense that they want to go at a quick clip because A, they don't know how long their show's going to last.
Yeah.
And B, yeah, you're right. They've built up a world that if you want to be able to address a lot of these issues about the afterlife, then yeah, you got to work fast.
I kind of sympathize with the question, and I do feel like it is uncomfortable. Like, you don't see where it's going, and it's uncomfortable, but in that exciting way. Like, I really have no clue what they're going to do with the next episode of this show.
It's so great.
And yeah, you never get TV like that anymore. I mean, everything always follows a formula.
All right, guys, last question. This comes to us from our very own Ashley Moreno. Who
I know
says,
her.
Uh-huh.
So, I know we all love and kind of want to sort of identify with Rick and Morty, but we're all actually Jerry, right?
You guys are both hearing that in Ashley's voice, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried to read it a little bit in her cadence.
I feel like I'm more of a bird person.
You're no bird person.
That impressive wingspan gives you away.
I can fly.
Okay.
And I come from another dimension. Mm-hmm. And I eat worms.
Okay, these things are you're a bird person.
See? That's all I'm saying.
I missed your poopy butthole. Because I got a great disposition about everything.
Yeah, you're always sunny.
Everyone loves me.
Yeah, and remember that time that Kyle shot you because he thought you were a parasite?
Yeah, it was fair. It was fair, dude.
I think I'd be squanchy because sometimes you just got to squanch your squanch. And,
Yeah, you're constantly squanching in the corner.
squanching and
You really need to get that out.
got to be squanching.
Like right now. Kyle, no! All right, guys, it has been both a sort of light week on news, and this is a very heavy episode on what we're discussing. A lot of TV shows to discuss. So we're going to skip the news this week, and we're going to dive right in. And if you guys are curious what order we're going to be discussing all of these shows in, we're going to start off with Rick and Morty, Then hit Great News and The Good Place over on NBC. Jump over to Fox for Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Mick, and Ghosted. And then we're going to wrap things up over on HBO with Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Everybody's making funnies.
Yeah, so if you guys don't want to hear us talk about certain ones, you can kind of just jump ahead and hear keywords on what we might be discussing. First off, though, guys, Rick and Morty, it just concluded its 3rd season. I got to binge 3 episodes today, and I didn't realize
nice.
But it was kind of great.
So, did you guys see this article that Rick and Morty is the top-rated comedy on TV?
What?
Yeah. So,
But is that by rickandmorty.com?
No. Basically, it is being called the number 1 comedy across all of television in the 18 to 24 and 18 to 34 demographics.
Wow.
Dan Harmon, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know who else has a hard-on for this show? What is it? Benioff and Weiss from Game of Thrones.
Oh, really?
Were you with me when we saw him at South by?
Yeah,
like 3 or 4 times they dodged question. What are you going to do next? We just want to work on Rick and Morty. That's all we want to do is. And then in the this new promo for all the Justice League stuff,
the true answer though was we're going to do a super racist and tone deaf show.
They did not want to talk about that. Yep.
Yeah, we don't know if we can talk about this. No, but no, the new Flash promo for Justice League. He's got Rick and Morty on in the background in his lab.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yep. Rick and Morty's taking over everything.
They're trying to get on this Rick and Morty train.
They're making McDonald's do release Szechuan sauce. They have powers.
That's pretty impressive.
Okay, so we touched on this a little bit in the questions, but it seemed like we could see a little bit of the direction of where this season was going, and it definitely, in the interpersonal relationship aspect, covered a lot of ground. It had Beth and Jerry split up and show what a miserable human Jerry is without them.
Yep.
And how Beth was, in a way, able to kind of thrive for a bit. But then kind of the weight of certain things, her, I guess I could say daddy issues, but her relationship with her father, and especially in that 9th episode, the ABCs of Beth, I think we really get a sense of why she would find comfort in adult like Jerry.
Yeah.
And that definitely gets hammered home in the last episode. But that kind of return to normalcy, that return to status quo of the family dynamic is what we're familiar with in a lot of TV shows. That's what comedies like to do. And it's funny that they both make fun of the fact that they're doing that, but they're still fully embracing it. And they're like, oh, it'll just be like back to normal next season.
Well, and I feel like that whole scene where it's like, I am fly fishing, Rick. I got this fly fishing hat. I love this idea that, like, Rick is kind of put in that situation again where, he loves his family and he can't really manipulate them anymore. So he just falls back into that role as the worst, or what did he call himself? The least valued member of the family.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with the 8th episode, I don't remember what it was called, Morty Mind Bombs or
Morty's
something.
Mind Blowers.
Mind Blowers. I liked that episode a lot because of the fact that it was one of those that obviously they wanted to appear on the exterior that they're just doing a sort of clip show-esque gimmick, but it had a lot more nuance, or a lot more of a message going on behind the scenes of it that really tied in at the end.
Yeah.
And we see how much of Rick's ego is at play with when he will wipe his memory. If he in any way embarrasses himself, he seems to wipe that memory away.
Yeah.
And it's like when Morty's traumatized, he embarrasses it. But Rick needs to be a perfect god all the time, and if he like trips in front of Morty, he's like, fuck, gotta wipe all the memory. And I think that like plays in perfectly with what a grandiose gesture it had to have been for him to wear a fly fisherman outfit and pretend he was someone else just so that he could maintain the family that he's now obviously grown a lot more emotionally attached to than like previous iterations.
Well, it was neat this season that, we got the episode where Rick and Jerry went on their adventure, And what was neat about that episode is it kept going back and forth in terms of, at one point, you kind of feel bad for Jerry, then you kind of feel bad for Rick, and just back and forth till you get to the end. And the consensus is that, Jerry kind of comes out of that whole thing a better person. And you could say he comes out of the divorce as a better person now. He, has probably a more appreciation for his family and hopefully a better awareness of those things that he does that just drives them insane.
Well, and, he dated telekinetic. So that's cool. That's cool for him. So,
well, Summer and Morty confronting him and saying they're going to help him, and their help was to make him say what a type of person he is, and that he needs to come to grips with that and address it. And that was the help they gave him. I thought that was very Harmon-esque.
Yeah,
to and he probably wrote a lot of that just hating himself at the same time.
Well, you know who I want to see come back next season? Susan Sarandon as the therapist character.
Oh, yeah.
Round 2, Susan Sarandon versus Rick Sanchez.
I have to say, specifically this last episode, I really loved the President versus Rick showdown. That was amazing. And isn't it Keith David playing the President?
Yeah.
Okay. And he's great. And their whole back and forth, these sort of the president's sort of ego about being the most powerful man in the world, and Rick being the smartest man in the world, and sort of that they're not on the same level, but in some ways they are. And
I like that he actually held his own against Rick in a way, and was just funneling all sorts of crazy tech.
Yes, when he calls down the satellite lasers on him, that was great.
When he blew the whistle and those two kids, the eyes went white. That's when I lost it.
But Rick had a contingency for it because he had candy for them.
Yeah,
for candy, and he pulled out his bow staff to fight him.
Yeah.
The choreography they do in their fight scenes,
Yeah.
just like Pickle Rick. It's just brilliant.
Did any of you guys notice the Centurions reference with the president's armor?
Oh,
It could, combine into different machinery and stuff.
That's nice.
Centurions call out. Look it up.
We did not see, it seems to be this continually dangling thread, this build up of their arch nemesis with Evil Morty.
Right.
And I feel like they have a lot more that they want to explore and do with that plot line, as well as Bird Person or Phoenix Person, as they're calling him. But yeah, I mean, I was a little bit bummed that we didn't get to address that again. That's where I kind of figured some of this was going to go in this season. But it seems like we just get one episode each season.
Well, I could see them taking if they want to kind of do this extended universe building that they've already begun. I could see them with Rick. It's always, is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? Is he really putting us in danger? Is he really helping us? Let's see that with Evil Morty. We've seen the bad side, now make us really sympathize and like this character and think about all the other characters differently.
I can also see just the way that Roiland and Harmon's mind work. When they show up back from Atlantis, they're like, Rick tells Morty, it'll probably never affect us. I can see him doing a thing where that's actually true. It basically, we just keep checking in on Evil Morty, expecting the big plan. In fact, nothing to do with our Rick and Morty.
Could be, but I mean, that was the nemesis of Evil Morty in that one episode. He came in and actually showed up Evil Morty.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm also wondering if we're gonna see them age a little bit, given the amount of events that happened. If we jumped ahead a little and we see that Morty's got a couple pubes on his chin or something,
I can't see
with
it.
it.
I can't see it. It's possible, but I can't see them doing it.
Did you guys notice in the Rick Shank Redemption when they go to the Citadel and you see a brief shot? They've just taken Morty and Summer, and they've told them they're about to assassinate Rick. Anyways, when you first open on the Citadel, there's a Rick in the background that's a mix between a Rick and a Morty.
Yeah.
Half Rick features, half Morty features, and he's wearing the blue pants from the flashback. I used to wear blue pants. You guys thinking what I'm thinking?
No. What are you thinking?
That Morty grows up to be a Rick? If he doesn't get all of his memories erased,
I've heard
that
this.
he can actually, that
all
big
right.
theory. But they straight up put.
But then his mom is his daughter. But maybe it's
Yeah,
not
that
his
could be bad.
daughter. If you recall in ABC's of Beth, he says pretty much, "You're not my daughter," but then he seems to backpedal on that.
Well, you know what I think would be kind of interesting? Even though they're probably not going to pay any of this off. They're just going to keep teasing it for the life of the show. But I think it would be interesting if Beth was actually his former wife.
That's messed up.
No, hear me out. And for some reason, he is in this weird situation where if he, is with her, it puts her in danger.
He
the only way to keep
mind-blowed her.
her safe is to, mind blow her and then leave her with Jerry because Jerry's so boring.
Except she left that basically cricket
Yeah.
in her little kid land.
The guy looked a lot like Cricket.
Right? That's what I figured it was. Yeah.
But that also would explain why Rick hates Jerry so much. He's banging his wife.
Oh, jeez. This took such a weird turn. All right, well, let's jump over from there to NBC and talk about this show, Great News, which is back for season 2 with a new cast member, Tina Fey.
Yep.
And
Boss
Randy, I know you're excited
biatch.
about this show.
Grant, I know how much you love this show and you want to talk about it, but let me talk about it first.
You should kick things
just hold back your enthusiasm for a second.
Fair.
All right. So I watched the season 1 in large part because Briga Heelan is the star, and I loved her in another show nobody watched called Ground Floor on TBS, and she was good in Love on Netflix as well.
That's her.
She's stunning. She's got great comedic timing. She's got great physical comedy, and I really like her. And then her mom is played by Andrea Martin, who's like this SCTV comedy legend.
That's who I love, yeah.
And this whole thing, I watched the first episode. I maybe watched the first 2, and I was like, this show's dumb, and it was not doing anything for me. And it felt really like, I don't know, every beat of the show, I was like, okay, I see what they're doing here. They're trying to be wacky 30 Rock, and it's not working. And then I watched the remaining 7 episodes at some point when I had a slow time.
Shit. This show's terrible. I'm only going to watch 7 more episodes.
Because here's the thing, I wanted to like it so much because I like the people in it. And when I finished watching the 10 episodes, and they did a little heist thing, and they started to build up some of the supporting cast, like Horatio Sands is like this nerdy little tech guy.
I like seeing him pop up, yeah.
It sort of won me over. And so by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm curious to see where they go with it. And then when they come back for season 2 and they bring in Tina Fey as basically the gender flip Jack Donaghy from 30 Rock.
Big time. Oh my gosh. Wear it on your sleeve much?
I really enjoyed this. I thought they did a great job with her. I thought this is not it's not subtle. It's not a show that is subtle about what it's doing, but I think it's pretty funny, and it's got potential to be more than it is.
Yeah. Kyle, what do you think?
No, I think you totally nailed it when you talked about how she's kind of flipped into that Jack role from 30 Rock.
Yeah.
And then what's the mom's, the actress's name again?
Andrea Martin?
Yeah, she almost is that Liz Lemon role. Well, I feel like a few of them are kind of the Liz Lemon
There's a lot of Liz
character.
Lemons in the show.
Yeah, if you think about it. And no, it feels a lot like 30 Rock. It feels like some of the other things that she's worked on. And yeah, I couldn't really find myself catching on to the through thread, but I mean, comedies like this don't normally, carry that through. I mean, the good ones do, but
Yeah.
For 30 minutes, it had me, giggling the whole time, and I definitely am interested in a little bit more.
This was created and written by Tracy Wakefield, who's one of the writers from 30 Rock. So it makes sense that it feels like that.
Yeah. So, Grant, destroy our destroy our dream. Tell us why.
I know you
we're
loved
wrong.
this show. I know how much you loved it. So try to I don't know, keep it under 30 minutes because it's a long show here. So what's your favorite part?
My favorite part is that Randy keeps trying to push this show and be like, we should talk about this. And so I finally decided to check it out. I just started on the 2nd season, and that first episode, I only made it through about 5-7 minutes before I was like, no, I'm not.
You cut it off?
Yeah, it is a type of humor that I just don't want. I don't want a bunch of grown people just acting silly for silly's sake. I thought it reminded me.
That's what comedy is.
I know, but it reminded me of Wet Hot American Summer, the goofiness of that, but without the immediate subversive like aspect of like a bunch of grown people pretending they're kids kind of thing. That it's a period piece that really wants to make a commentary on all of those shows and movies from the 80s. So like all of that I got, and I thought that they played that really well. And here it's just a bunch of adults acting like goobers, and everything is a crazy trash fire. And I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do this. It reminded me a little bit of the wackiness of Angie Tribeca and why that became tiring for me after a bit.
I can see
and
that.
I liked that at first, and then it became tiring. But here it was just like immediately tiring, and I just couldn't do it.
Okay.
I know what you're reacting to, and
comedy's
I've seen
subjective,
it,
man.
Yeah, I've seen it in other stuff. I don't think it hit that level for me, but I could totally see that. You know, I didn't watch the first season, and you know, I am going to continue watching this season. But I wouldn't be surprised if it got to a spot like that.
This wouldn't make the cut if someone was like, you only can watch 10 comedies. This wouldn't be anywhere near the list.
Yeah, that's because we got like 20 good ones out right now.
10 comedies currently on air.
Yes.
Would it still be?
Nope.
Okay.
20 comedies currently on air probably still isn't. I mean, it's not great, despite the title of Great News. It's okay, meh news. but I did get some laughs out of it, and I thought Tina Fey's character added quite a bit to it. So,
Well, speaking of great,
yes,
The Good Place
yes,
is back for its second season. The first couple episodes, the first episode was like almost an hour.
Yeah.
And the second episode's out as well. You guys have seen both of those, right?
Yep.
yes.
I am so impressed. Hey, and we're going to spoil some shit. So if you guys have not seen this, it's on Netflix. Go watch that first season.
Yeah.
It's important, and also skip ahead about 10 minutes.
I rewatched the entire first. I don't do a ton of rewatching, but I rewatched the entire first season before this came on because it popped on my Netflix and I kind of want to watch it, and I couldn't stop myself going back through the whole thing because it is so good.
Well, simultaneously, at the end of the first season, I was impressed with the twist, but then also like, no, Ted Danson, I loved him being like their compadre.
Yeah.
Like I loved him on, what is that, Better Off Dead? Or what was that HBO show that he did?
What was
Bored
that?
to Death.
Bored to Death.
Yeah. No, I love him as like this kind of like elder statesman sidekick type character.
Yeah.
And at the conclusion of these first two episodes, in this really creative way that I didn't see coming, you know, at all, they got him back to that spot where it looks like the gang's back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of nice in a way. It's a little bit reassuring. I was just like, I love the format of that first episode where they take and retrace the same sort of steps of going through this process
But
for
pairing
each of the
everybody
four
differently.
characters. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we see how it's all playing out for each of them.
Yeah.
And they did it without anything feeling repetitive or tiring. And it's just pretty brilliant, especially with how it like winds all the way through and gets to the resolution point that they figure it out right away. But the second episode where it plays through like 800 iterations of this, where
That
he
was
keeps
genius.
he keeps resetting, and he can't figure out how to get this to work. And meanwhile, we see how it's kind of playing out on their end, and like immediately we get what's her name, Kristen Bell's character. With Chidi, like this iteration, like she already recognizes that they have like this passionate relationship from the multiple other times, and so we're able to kind of skip part of that. And if this is the world we're staying in, where he's breaking this deal with them, I like the fact that like we are kind of caught up to where we need to be with those characters. We don't have that same thing going on with Jason and Janet yet. With his relationship with the Siri robot. Basically.
Well, they kind of alluded to that in the first episode where when he was trying to get away from his like his life partner.
Can I just be with you?
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of elements of the, even without their memories, they fall into these same patterns. What I love about this, and this is why I'm not worried about what they're going to do in season 3 and season 4 or whatever, is because all that first season, they were moving at a breakneck pace, but now they've established all that. We got to see the medium place and Mindy St. Clair again. We got to see, the whole thing with Jason and Janet is in there.
This is Michael Schur building a world like The Simpsons, Parks and Rec.
All of that is there. So all of that work that they put in the first season, because they didn't slow down, it was a fun season to watch. But they also were establishing, and now they're playing around with that. The episode 3 of this season, the one that has like 400 different attempts in the reboot, that's a show that most shows wouldn't do in like season 6 when you're getting tired and be like the one good episode in a bad season. And instead, every episode of The Good Place is still hilarious.
I mean, we can see at this point that the shift in drive for these characters is that Michael is making an alliance with these 4 because his demon acting crew is turning against him.
Yeah.
And he desperately needs this to work, or else he's completely dead. He's a goner.
And here's the thing. I know for sure that is not the new status quo. We're not now going to watch 5 more episodes of Michael working with them all. There'll be another 2 or 3 switches before that all comes to the end.
Yeah, likely.
They don't settle on a status quo. Instead, they kind of keep things moving, and they change things, and they use all the tools that they've got, and they keep slowly expanding the world. We haven't seen the rest of The Bad Place.
I mean, I feel like this is setting up a little bit more of a leisurely pace for building an arc, where they are going to try and work together. They're going to see what they can do with this, and I imagine this is going to evolve into. I mean, when I try to predict where this show might go, it has to eventually move beyond the motivation of Michael wanting to just torture them in this place.
No,
and
I
it has
agree.
to move beyond the motivation of those demons to want to go back to what they were good at before. It's going to have to be where all of them end up pretending that they are operating a bad place because they all enjoy actually living in this community and the society.
I could see so I feel like what the first season did great is when you got to the end, and not even the very last episode, but like the last couple episodes, you knew that the show was going to change forever. Like when we still believed you were in the good place, you knew it was never going to change. I could see after this season, a very easy place for them to go next would be sneaking into the actual good place.
I was going to say, we
and
haven't
really trying to hide in the legit good place.
We haven't seen the actual bad place. We've just seen this experimental version of it.
We haven't seen the good place.
We haven't seen the actual good place, which is the title of the show. So there is plenty to explore.
Yeah.
But don't you guys feel like the eventual goal of this show is to transform? It's like the reverse Breaking Bad. You're going to take and transform the bad place, which was presented to us initially as the good place, into the good place. They are going to have that aspirational goal, which seems so optimistically Mike Schur, that they're going to try as a society to build something greater than the sum of the individual parts, basically.
It's possible. Schur and his people do not think small. So, yeah, I can absolutely see them thinking that big.
Well, and you got to give them credit for this tool they have now, because in a society where we're so divided, you now have these 2 sets of characters. One set of character that they just want life as we know it, and then another set of characters where their primary motivation is poking people with hot prods or biting them.
Actual demons.
Yeah, actual demons. And now they have to exist in a place that looks like, our everyday.
Yeah. Also, we didn't talk too much about the cast and everything, but everybody in the show is so good. I mean, Kristen Bell is amazing as Eleanor, but also the guy playing Jason, he's great playing this sort of dimwit.
He's so good.
Yeah.
I really need to see more of Pillboy because that actor is popping up in every show. He was just recently in Brooklyn Nine-Nine as one of the hackers, too.
And then Janet is always funny. I love Janet.
I love how Jason always makes you feel sorry for him. Even you're he's so dumb, but then when he makes the sad face, you're like, oh.
It's super exciting that original or real Eleanor, the demon, Denise now I think is her name.
Yeah.
That she is kind of a main player.
Oh,
as well.
Vicky.
Yeah.
She's become Michael's nemesis because she thinks she can run the whole thing.
Yeah. So I love that we're getting to see a little bit more of each of the demons. They're kind of they're bringing out more of their individual personality versus who they're trying to present to the 4 humans.
Yeah.
And just all of this, how it keeps building is so great.
By the way, the fake soulmates that they gave them all.
Yeah.
That was really great. The
dude who's like, I gotta go to the
dude who
gym.
keeps still going to go to the gym. Tahani's short environmental activist guy. The other
and then
monk.
she can't get over it.
Yes. And also, as in talking about sort of expanding the crowd, because this is what Parks and Rec did too, the demon who keeps wanting to bite people.
Tahani continually complaining about her cargo pants was so good to me, because I just kept thinking of Randy and his cargo shorts.
I love the Janet safety feature when you try to disable her. And she like pleads for her life and makes you feel really bad.
That whole scene with Michael, where it's a playoff. It's a play on the same first season where she's like, no, I don't actually have any feelings. This is just a defense mechanism, and it keeps being funny. Like it is never not funny. It's like, Michael, this is my kids.
But the way she falls is this just very like lifeless piece of wood. It's not a person kind of thing. It's just really bizarre.
Yeah, this may be the best comedy on TV.
Yeah.
Oh, the other great moment for me in this episode was when Jason guesses that it's the bad place.
Oh, yeah, that
and Michael's just like, really?
Jason gets it? Yeah, that actually, even before Ted Danson delivered a line, I was dying because the notion of Jason figuring it out was hilarious. Yeah.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be back to talk about Fox and HBO. All right, guys, we are back, and we are talking about, what is this, season 5 of Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
9-9.
Yeah,
The
beef
9-9.
babies.
You know what happened? I was watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine last season, and I stopped at some point, and I forgot. I was like, oh, wait, we're going to talk about Brooklyn Nine-Nine this week. Where did I leave off? So I've been keeping track of all the shows I watched, so I was able to like trace back and go, oh, I still have like 6 more episodes I need to
Wait,
binge
do you have
over
a
this week.
spreadsheet?
Yeah, well, I don't have a spreadsheet. I have an email, which is not efficient, but I keep every time I watch something, I add it to the list
Nice.
throughout the year, and I've done it just for this year.
There's actually a blogger that I follow who keeps an X-Files spreadsheet every time he watches each of the episodes, and then he gives like different criteria about the episode.
Oh,
like,
wow.
His review, like what characters are like seen in it. So he just has this giant X-Files spreadsheet.
That's intense. Well, anyway, I was able to binge up to the end of season 4, and I'm really grateful I did, because I didn't realize the whole plot that happens where he ends up going to prison. Well, both of them. Diaz goes too.
This is the way Brooklyn Nine-Nine does things. I was just looking through. Season 2 started with Peralta undercover. And we had like 2 episodes of him being undercover before he goes back to the 9-9. Season 3 started with a new captain. And they had a couple episodes before they brought the captain back. Season 4 started with them, with 2 of them in witness protection. Yeah. So they like to change things up. And they're going to have to keep coming up with stuff. But again, Mike Schur, they'll keep coming up with stuff. And
how much is Mike Schur involved?
It's actually not Mike Schur. It's like Dan Gore is the main writer on this, but Schur shows like he's the Godfather in the same way that sort of
if he anoints you, you have a similar sensibility.
Well, these guys have all worked together for a long time on various things. So, but this whole notion of like having Diaz and Peralta in jail. And seeing what the other team, everybody, like separating everybody out and seeing what happens when you mix and match the characters.
And then that's Lou Diamond Phillips?
Lou Diamond Phillips is the gang member.
He's so good.
He was so good.
Oh, and Terry Meadows? Wait.
Tim Meadows as the cannibal.
Oh, yeah.
That should not have been funny.
It's every time they say it, it's fucked up, and I'm laughing and going, I shouldn't laugh at that.
So Tim,
he's like they were kids, so they were easy to catch. I'm like, shit.
Well, there's the bit like when he's talking about them, he's like, oh yeah, your job being a cop is a lot like my job as a cannibal. He's like, Yeah, waiting for school to let out. Like, whoa, it's so dark.
I couldn't believe
so funny.
how a comedian like that, who you don't expect to be funny, can deliver all those lines.
No,
just
man.
so deadpan and just like nail it each time.
Tim Meadows was never that great on Saturday Night Live, but you look at him in that episode of The Office early on, where he's playing the client that Michael wins over. And they get off on like the Chili's Baby Back Rib song. Tim Meadows' sort of genial doofus mode can work really well. And
He's really good. Yeah, I wonder why he doesn't ever seem to land like a good steady gig.
because he's one of these actors who's not a great lead.
Yeah, but he could be like an ensemble.
But I think he wants to be a lead guy, and he always seems to wind up in those roles. But when he does these little roles where like you put this totally genial, nice guy and make him a horrible monster, and that contrast is funny as hell.
Yeah, especially because what's Andy Samberg's guy's name?
Jake Peralta.
Jake. Because Jake genuinely considers him a friend because he's acting like such a friend, but he's like, shit, you did what?
By the way, the payoff to that whole runner where Jake visits him in the hospital and he tries to eat him, it was so funny to me. It was like a funny version of that Gollum or the scene in Lord of the Rings where what's his name the
Bilbo, yeah.
Bilbo tries to grab the ring. It was like that but funny.
Yeah. So yeah, these first two episodes, we have him and Diaz in prison, and we haven't. Now I'm forgetting. Did they haven't figured out a way out yet? Right?
No. Well, you haven't seen episode 2.
I have.
Have you? Okay.
Yep.
So
I haven't, so spoil it for me.
Okay, episode 2. I mean, no big spoilers here. They figure a way out of the prison, and they'll be back to being Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
That's right. Okay, now I remember what happened. Okay, at the end,
Yeah.
they get the confession from her. Okay,
But the thing I really like about this show, and this was the big question when it launched, like I guess 4 years ago or 5 years ago, is how do you make a show about like murders and robberies funny? And they don't shy away from like corrupt cops and like SWAT teams and all that stuff. But the way that everybody interacts with it, it's still funny.
well, I mean, they present these characters as really regular, like genuinely funny, good
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah.
And all these other cop shows we get,
Yeah.
we're never presented with real people.
No.
We're like comedies do real people so much better than dramas, I think.
It's actually true.
Because dramas, you always have to be serious. You can't ever like just do what most people do, is just like casually make jokes and like try and be positive about most things, despite there's darkness in the world. But most people aren't actually that heavy all the time.
By the way, I think I was you guys probably with me on this, that Andy Samberg was the part we were all worried about early on. Like he was the guy we weren't sure he could carry this.
Yeah.
And he's great. He's
I know.
so good.
I can't. It's funny because I remember a time where you were like, kind of on the fence. But
tired of him.
After this, it's like he's tested now. You know,
Yeah.
if he came out with a movie before Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you'd be like, oh, that's
Yeah, not going to see that.
But now, like then the next Lonely Island thing or whatever he does, I'm pretty sure it's going to be.
I mean,
interesting.
He can carry an ensemble, but I really think this is the work of the writers and how they've sculpted the characters and how they know when to amp him up and when to tone him down.
Yeah, well,
in order to make him relatable. Because
that is a very good point. Is he is like the thing that we don't like about him is when he's on 11, and there's a lot of points in the show where he knows to definitely be on like 6.
Yeah, I think that's true.
But yeah, like when you watch him like free reign with his own creative latitude to choose what he wants to do, with his like Lonely Island stuff, his movies that he makes, his Hot Rod and whatever else.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious that he has an over-the-top sensibility about things.
Yeah.
And when they are able to rein him in, he's that perfect level that is able to balance and make it like a general mass appeal rather than annoying niche audience.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
You know what I think it is, or what it could be. Speculating here. I think it might be an insecurity thing. I think when he's insecure, he compensates with over the top. I got to be crazy now.
So when he feels comfortable,
yeah, when he's confident and he's got good material to work with, he can lay back, and you really get to see this range. And he just unleash him.
There's some stories here, like the whole thing with him and Amy. I worried about that because their chemistry is a little weird, and that could easily have been sort of a boring story. But I genuinely was happy when the two of them had their little reunion.
I like it,
and I love Diaz is another great character. Sarge, of course, is a great character. Charles, his whole podcast runner and his new hair was cracking me up every time.
So terrible, yeah.
There's no Gina. Chelsea Peretti wasn't in these first two episodes.
In the last season, I was laughing about the fact that what you always see when an actress gets pregnant mid-season, and they like try to do all these things to obstruct how she's pregnant, and they were doing it here. I was like, oh, okay, Chelsea Peretti's pregnant. I didn't know that, but they end up near the end of the season like having the discovery and finding out that she's pregnant. I assume what's going on in the plot here is that she's away on maternity leave because she had a kid.
But the not so secret weapon of the show is Andre Braugher.
Everything he does is gold.
He's the straight man, but they gave him this little bit of like
he's the gay straight man.
But he's a gay straight man. But he also like his whole like big chest thing with the boss when she's just like night to check whatever, and he comes with this like multiple chest move, and that's just the way he is. Like seeing him like trash talk is always funny.
Oh, when he was like. Snap.
Yes.
Yes, queen.
Yes. Like, oh my God, that killed me.
I was like, what?
It was like, he was like, you're going to play.
Brower having to deliver that line is so great.
He's like, you're going to play the gay card? Yes, queen. Killed me. Yeah.
So what show I really want to see crossover with Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Is it Ghosted?
It's not Ghosted. It's Lethal Weapon. I'm talking about L.A. to New York.
Oh my God!
We got to team these guys up. Which one is the fish out of water? Because like those tones are so different.
Well, the Lethal Weapon would bring a little action in there, and then Brooklyn Nine-Nine would jack their comedy up a bit.
And anyway, it's great to have this show back, and it's just a great cast. And this one has that makings of like. It could go Modern Family, and I could just get tired of it, I think, in a couple seasons. But I also hope it kind of wraps up in, like, 2 more seasons.
I feel like Parks and Rec is the trajectory to watch for. Like, it'll keep being good. You'll keep thinking this is the season where it's going to start sucking, and they keep being good, and then they'll wrap it up.
The thing about shows like Modern Family is that you can get sick of them, but because of distribution models now and all of the different ways that we can consume TV, a show like Modern Family where you get sick of it, you can then go back and find yourself binging 2 or 3 seasons because you love those characters.
It's true.
They don't phone it in. They, show like Modern Family, it's consistently good whenever you catch it.
Yeah.
It's just that whole like staying power of
it's just like sometimes you get a little saccharine burnout.
By the way, guys, 2 last things on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Okay.
One is this is the rare exception to my don't make more than 13 episodes rule. 22 episodes of Brooklyn Nine-Nine is always good every season. They usually break in half. And 2 is, in 2 weeks, we're getting the episode Halloween, which is the 5th Halloween episode.
You know what? I wouldn't actually mind if this was only 13 episodes, but it does seem to prove that it can handle a 22-episode
They
model.
earn their 22 every time.
They do. So, it can go either way. Let's move on to The Mick, which just returned for its second season. And this was a show that I think floated under the radar of a lot of people for a while.
I was a latecomer. I didn't see it till ATX this year.
But if you guys have been able to go and catch the first season, I'm sure you're with us when you say, wow, this is really good. And Caitlin Olsen is one of those people who also can genuinely carry a show.
She can lead an ensemble too, because this is a great ensemble.
Well, what about people like me, the newcomers? I don't got time for that first season.
You never saw it?
I never saw the first season. But
what do you think?
I'm here for the second season. I told you I got some thoughts.
Well, let's let you lead then.
So I feel like just coming right out the gate, you don't know what happened in the first season, but you know that it ended in the house that they're living in, this mansion. It was burnt down. All right. And they're now kind of put up at this hotel until their money manager comes in and says the money's getting cut off. Now,
you guys are spending frivolously and terribly.
Yeah, exactly. From what you gather, being a newcomer to the show, is that these kids are just very awful to this woman who appears to be their caretaker, maybe / aunt. And she's got
she's their aunt.
She's the aunt, okay, and she's got a bumbling sidekick, maybe / boyfriend.
Jimmy.
Yeah. And the two of them seem to be like the sole guardians for these just spoiled preteens.
So what you missed from the premise is that, her sister was married to this guy. They're multi-millionaire, super wealthy. They have 3 kids. 2 of them are pretty shitty. The other one's young and just kind of a little bit of a psychopath, but otherwise, seems sweet. And the caretaker, the lady that that helps them as well, that was mainly doing most of the raising as well. But she was brought in while her sister and husband had to go away. Initially, it seemed like on vacation, but it ended up because they took off absconded because they were under investigation for embezzling or whatever, right? So she starts off just watching him over a weekend and then gets kind of saddled with taking care of him. And she's a terrible person who doesn't give a shit about anything. She's super trashy. And somehow her low-class trashiness and their high-class trashiness have a middle ground that allows them to communicate in a certain way. But they're all toxic people that just seem to be meshing in a hilarious manner.
You also missed that Jimmy has hit her with his car twice and driven off.
Jimmy is such a great character. Her low-life boyfriend who genuinely cares for her, even though she's just kind of mixed on how she always feels about him. It really makes for a great. Oh wait, the oldest daughter? Do you recognize her? She was the woman in the first episode of The Night of the one who gets murdered.
Oh, that's right.
Isn't that kind of crazy?
Wild. And she's great. She's really good.
She's so good.
The sort of hateful relationship she has with Mickey is one of my favorite parts. By the way, Kyle, you should go ahead and watch all the first season. But if you want to see my favorite episode, watch the penultimate episode called The Implant.
Is that the baseball one? Oh, no.
Yes, that is the baseball one as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Football game.
Oh, man.
Jimmy takes the boys to the football game while the girls play around with some fake breast implants.
Yes.
So good.
Yep.
Okay. I think I'm gonna have to go back and check this out.
This show surprised me how good it is, and it's funny and it's edgy, and I love Alma, the sort of the housekeeper who's become the sort of like clearly is like doing a bunch of drugs and going crazy and is like just dangerously unstable.
That the little kid, he was trying to
the exorcism
do an exorcism.
Holy,
the little
that
kid
was.
You guys remember they talked about this? I went to the panel at ATX and they talked about this, that when you get this kid who looks all innocent, the more you can make him do more and more messed up shit and get away with it. And they sort of compared it. I don't know if they did. Somebody else compared it to Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle.
Yeah.
Remember how Dewey, you could tell that poor kid was going to be a serial killer.
He's the anti-Joffrey.
Yeah.
It's like you have such a wholesome look that we have so much leeway. Whereas like poor actor who played Joffrey, it's like you look like such an asshole before you even open your mouth. People hate you.
Yeah, Grant, you remember the bunny episode from season 1? The bunnies?
Oh, the bunnies keep dying?
Yes.
They're going through all these dead bunnies.
I mean, there's some real darkness to this show.
Yeah.
But it's so good. And them there's a little bit of Always Sunny in the DNA because it's like they're always trying to scam people, but they're not smart enough to scam anyone.
And Caitlin Olsen, I think, is a driving force in both the humor. It seems like she is helping set a tone for what they need to do.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's true, but it just feels like she knows the humor they need to do, and they're basing it on what she can do. And I don't even know if she's like helping behind the scenes writing, but it just feels like her.
So I don't want to give away too much about the second episode because I watched that before I came over here.
Okay.
But it does guest star Michaela Watkins, who I love.
Okay.
And it does feature a bloody sight gag that I about died laughing at.
I'm very excited. I love where they're going. I thought like them taking away the house from them,
Yes.
and making them have to kind of these spoiled, rotten, just pieces of shit, as well as Mickey, who knows how to handle herself in that other society, but she's really going to do everything she can not to have to.
Yeah.
Them having to struggle like this, it just is comedy gold.
Well, and the whole runner with Jimmy running his low-class con job and trying to teach these these kids who basically, I mean, the funny thing is, their parents are like the white-collar cons. Like, they've screwed everybody over. That's why they flee the country.
Yeah.
And so the notion of these sort of white-collar cons living with these blue-collar cons and essentially conning everyone, it's like The Riches if it were funny.
Yeah. Okay, so on a serious note, guys, we need to talk about the show Ghosted.
No.
Is this an intervention? Is this an intervention from me?
Because the first episode came out, and Randy said this is his favorite comedy of the year.
I never said that. Not even in jest. That's not funny.
Randy, you got a tattoo of them that says Ghosted for life, and you said 7 seasons or else.
No, I got a tattoo on my butt of Craig Robinson and Adam Scott.
And when you
Kissing.
flex your butt, they kiss.
That has nothing to do with Ghosted. I got that 2 years ago.
And yet, every time you flex your butt, I'm mesmerized. I can't look away. He's always pantsless here.
It's
in the
true.
studio.
We don't wear pants here at the Permanent Record Studios.
It's too hot. We should get AC.
That's true. Or a fan.
Okay.
A Dyson
If only
fan.
we had more fans.
So, Ghosted, I haven't seen this since I watched an early screener of it at ACL, and I'm not sure if they changed too much from it. Not ACL, ATX Fest.
ATX.
But the basic premise is that Adam Scott's character is a kooky sort of book writer that was like investigating paranormal stuff, all like Ghostbusters.
He was an astrophysicist.
Okay, an astrophysicist.
And his wife got abducted by aliens, and so he lost... I'm going to describe this because you're going to screw it up.
Actually,
Okay.
did they change it? Because when you watch this pilot, it seems a little all over the place. Like they
may
had
have
some ideas rolling
maybe
around.
it was
at different times.
astrophysics.
We're introduced to
Okay.
We're introduced to him in a bookstore, and he's trying to sell something, and he sort of reveals that his wife was abducted by aliens, and you see he's a crazy person.
Yeah.
But we find out that he was this sort of famous astrophysicist.
He's Fox Mulder.
His wife got kidnapped by aliens, and he lost everything because he kept talking about her being abducted by aliens, and we thought he was crazy.
Yeah,
and
he's smart and scientific, but
Yeah.
he's experienced the paranormal, and he's
So everybody thinks he's had a mental breakdown. And Craig Robinson is playing a guy who was like he's like the LAPD's best missing persons detective, but he got his partner killed, and so now he's been busted down to sort of like a mall security cop.
Yeah.
And
You
so
know how it goes.
these two guys, the whole notion here is these two guys were the best they were at what they did, and then they lost everything because of interactions with the paranormal, and now they're getting a chance to interact with the paranormal as partners, but they're not. It's a buddy comedy, so they're not the same type of person.
Yeah, and they don't get along initially.
And they work for this mysterious organization called the Bureau Underground that deals with everything from aliens to Bigfoot to, they can do any number of mystical stuff or alien stuff. So it's basically anything weird, all the weird stuff.
It's the X-Files, it's Fringe.
It's
and
Middleman.
It's the two people getting to investigate.
That's the cough syrup right there. I feel like that's the big spoonful of, if you want to watch this show, you got to understand this.
Yeah, and that's entirely what the pilot is.
Yep.
There's so much. Was it you, Kyle off Mike, who said something about like that there was so much plot for a comedy?
Yeah, it felt like a great American Ninja Warrior, that obstacle game show, but
Yeah.
it was like every plot point you had to reach to get to kind of what the show is.
Yeah.
You just run through, obstacle. Oh, that guy fell. This guy.
And
Look, go.
And you're not wrong, and I understand why both you guys didn't like this, but I read an interview, and they talked about how one of their touchstones is Midnight Run, which is one of my favorite movies. It's one of the ultimate buddy comedies.
They might as well have just said, we are really looking to do Terriers, but comedic.
It's
with
not
supernatural.
It's not far removed, so I will admit to a little bias here.
Hide your boner, dude.
But there is a nod. There's a nod to Midnight Run in one of the scenes, in one of the only scenes I laughed at in the pilot, when the two of them are in the car and he's asking him why he quit the LAPD, which is only funny because it's a reference to Midnight Run. I get the problems with this, but I think there's a lot of potential because I think Adam Scott and Craig Robinson have good chemistry. I think the premise is interesting for a comedy, and I think now that all this stuff's out of the way, they should be able to get better.
Sure. But let's talk about the problems, because this
Yes.
is the pilot, and this is what we were presented with.
Yes.
And the problems are, you have two actors that are naturally really funny.
That's true.
They also immediately already have chemistry with each other. They've worked together in multiple projects together. We know that they work well together. And so what's left, and let's go ahead and say the premise is pretty solid. It's a little bit, it's a bit well tread, and so it's not necessarily the most unique, but that should at least let you know that they should know what they're doing with this. And when I see the comedic writing that was delivered for this first episode, and the fact that a lot of these jokes, most of them fell flat. I think I laughed at like maybe one or two things, and even if I did, it was mildly. It makes me nervous about who's behind the scenes writing and overseeing this. And sure, a pilot can have a lot of problems with tone trying to get things right while everyone figures it out. And I get that.
Yep.
But this had so many things working for it that if it's not hitting that mark with that much of a handicap, it makes me nervous.
Okay, well, the guy who created this is a guy named Tom Gormican. And I don't think you got to be nervous because I see here that he was a co-producer on movie 43. And that awkward moment.
Okay.
Aye.
See, and that's where I'm like, they greenlit a show from a guy that's not funny.
Yeah.
And maybe they bring in a talented cast of crew for the next episodes. That's generally what happens. One guy writes a pilot. He ends up having the ins and outs in order to get that one going. But there's potential there. And so they're going to fix it with ongoing episodes. But this first episode was embarrassing.
You know how you fix this, or what you could have done differently.
Yeah.
Because in hindsight, we keep talking about it could be a great show. Like, you get past this, you could get to the good show. But I feel like a show that did this way better was The Wrong Mans. And they started with this slow burn where you were slowly introduced to the main character. And when you were presented with them, he was just like us, normal world. And they eased us into, oh no, there's this bigger thing going on to this normal guy. And what we have here is we're just kind of thrown into the deep end.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I'm just optimistic about it because I think it could be a good show. But I can't deny you guys may be right. And this could be one of those things I quit 3 episodes in.
I mean, it could just be too heavy. It really depends on the writers and whether they can really write something that plays to the strength of these actors. Because we know that they're great. We know it.
Right.
And to your point, Kyle, wait, what was your point?
Oh, no, I just feel like if they would have gone with a slow burn to like ease us into the show.
Yes, that point. I just wanted to say that was one of the few things that I appreciated actually about this was that they didn't mess around with what was a lot that they needed to unload. Like in the first 15 minutes, I was like, look, this guy's from an astrophysicist. He knows this, this, and this. Look, this guy was a former cop. He knows this and this. Let's pair them together. Let's present them with a situation. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, there's a little bit of craziness. But you know what? At the end, we've paired them together, and now we have our ongoing plot. Like, they didn't mess around in a 30-minute format with too much of that, and I appreciated that. But at the same time, it didn't play out in a funny way.
So, okay, so you liked the thing that you didn't like.
No. I like how they ran everything through a machine to get rid of the unnecessary exposition because I'm so familiar with this setup anyway. But it also needs to be funny, and it wasn't. That's my problem.
Well, okay. I mean, I see what you're saying. No, you're absolutely right. If you're going to go ahead and make this show now, you could have made the show that explains how these guys got there, and you could have made that funny and made us kind of care about where we're at now. Yeah. Instead, or you could have gone the tried and true route of throw us in the middle of the action. Let us find out later down the road where they came from. Like, we don't need to know all of the backstory. And in fact, when you pigeonhole us into a backstory, it doesn't make the character as dynamic or, get rid of the mystery. So, I mean, you could have just thrown us right into the middle of it.
I agree. I mean, I think that's one of those writing tips they always say. Write your first episode, throw it in the trash, and write what the second episode is and call that your pilot.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Because whatever you're going to write in that first episode is going to be a lot of heavy shit that you don't actually need to deal with, and audiences are too smart for nowadays.
Well, it's funny you say that because I do think this second episode is going to be very different from the first. I have a hunch. I just think...
Did you see it already?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But literally, like, when you look at the first episode, there's so many pieces that seem Frankenstein together. Mm-hmm. It's like they had an idea of what the show was going to be, but they just didn't know how to get it there.
Yeah, they just cobbled that shit together.
Yeah, and I'm thinking episode 2, hopefully they will have, will be the show, and we'll get to see what this thing's going to be like.
Well, talking about shows that are super established and know what they're doing... Curb Your Enthusiasm is back for, what is this, the 9th season, I want to say?
It is the 9th season. So here's the funny thing, as I look through this, I realize that this show usually is like 1 or 2 years between seasons. Mm-hmm. It has been 6 years since this was last on the air.
6?
So I didn't think it was ever coming back. I thought he was done. But apparently he's not.
Not so much, like, to the point where he already signed for the next season after this.
Yeah.
Well, he actually, I don't know if you guys saw it, in that time, he did an HBO movie.
I watched
Clear History. Yeah.
Which, it wasn't the greatest thing ever, but I enjoyed it. It was kind of fun.
So here's the interesting thing as I look. Alec Berg and David Mandel were two of the main writers on a lot of this. They've been around for a long time. They're around since Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Alec Berg is currently over on Silicon Valley. Mm-hmm. David Mandel is running Veep.
Wow.
So the guy left is Larry David and Jeff Schaffer, who's also a guy who did work on The League and co-wrote Clear History.
Larry Charles isn't on this?
Larry Charles is a director. He's still on he's on an episode. But basically they've lost 2 of their main guys. And it's just Larry David and Jeff Schaffer writing this whole thing. Now, this is a lot of improv. That's kind of the style of Curb. But I wonder if that's going to make a difference.
I mean, you guys came away from this episode pretty positive. In fact, I think you guys were saying this was one of your favorite things of this lineup.
I said that, yeah.
I did not say that. I liked it, but it was not my favorite.
I came away from this feeling like I really saw the improv that was going on, and it felt a little bit heavy in scenes. Yeah. And I don't know if that's a problem of editing or a problem of them just taking their first take of improv, but like this show, it seems like they go in with a premise. They'll shoot a scene a couple times where they just like riff at each other.
Yeah,
like everything with the barber, it felt labored rather than natural conversation
and uncomfortable. I mean, Curb is supposed to be uncomfortable, but it's supposed to be uncomfortable in a funny way. This, I was just like, Larry, you're an asshole.
Like, there's a couple of them. Like, it felt like him really like having to catch up with the modern era about that. Like, I get that that's the joke.
Yeah.
But there was nothing really funny about their take on it. It was just like, oh, I feel like you need to be the groom instead of the bride. Yeah. And like once that joke was said the first time, every time they kept saying it was just more of them like, yes, and because we're doing improv and I can't come up with anything else funny to say.
Yeah, I agree. That whole storyline and also the stuff with Richard Lewis, who I usually think they're great together, I thought that was a little belabored. But
I really liked actually. I kind of liked Richard Lewis a bit more because he's just so tired of everything.
Yeah. See, actually, that was the place where I felt like I could see the improv was with Richard Lewis.
They
had the interaction where I kind of am feeling.
I agree there,
picking up with
but I'm also like, since he's been there since the beginning, it just feels like it felt natural that they just have this shitty way of talking to each other that feels like improv.
See, the thing with me is my favorite part is anything he does with Susie Essman. I think she's the best part of the show. So the whole thing with Foisted is the title of it. That was my favorite part.
Her and what's his name? His partner in crime,
Jeff Garland.
Not Jeff Garland.
Oh, okay. JB Smoove.
JB
Smoove. JB Smoove's answering the phone. I would watch a whole show of just JB Smoove answering the phone in character.
Everything JB Smoove does and everything that he's able to bring out of Larry David is brilliant. Like he keeps it fresh and moving at a clip that the other people, like, they'll just keep talking until they're able to like deliver new gold from their improv. And he's just constantly switching it up, and he is the person that I feel like hive minds the best with Larry David right now.
He's also
more so
good call.
than Jeff Garland.
I agree.
He's their Kramer if Kramer isn't racist.
He's
Can
racist.
JB Smooth be racist?
Jamie
We will
Smith is
find
racist too. But it's an acceptable level of
But
racism.
Kyle, you like this a lot.
Oh, yeah. And I feel like, some of the things that you guys were saying, I connected with, but I connected with more holistically, all in all. I loved seeing the gang back together.
Yeah,
I mean, that was a
sure.
big thing for me. Just even the theme song to this, it just puts you in that mood.
Yeah.
But then again, for me, the beauty of Curb is watching how the story of the show plays out. Because you know that there's going to be something kind of small at the beginning, and maybe it's not funny, maybe it's not even that awkward, but by the end of the show, it's going to snowball into that big, final scene that usually just has me on the ground. And it's this weird way of looking at comedy where, you really build on a simple idea, and the way that they patch all of it together is that improv style.
I mean, that was the thing, though. It's like, at this point with this show, I understand the story structure that to a point, probably where we all do, where we've seen this enough, where that one of the first 3 faux pas that Larry David makes is going to be the punchline of the last scene. And it's going to be escalated in some way. So is it going to be the manner in which he held open the door or didn't for the first person?
Wait,
is it going to be how he foisted a person? Or is it going to be his fatwa
And
thing?
it was all 3.
Here's the thing.
Well, mainly it was that middle one. It was the foist and getting punched in the shower.
If you look at a Mad Libs and you pay close attention, you can figure out what they're trying to do. But if you just fill it out and have fun with it, Mad Libs are still funny every time you do it, and you can do it a million different ways.
You're dead on. You're actually dead on about that.
Yeah. I actually think that that was the other structural weakness, I think, is that when Curb is at its best, it's kind of like Seinfeld, where everything comes together in this sort of perfect moment at the end. And it was clunky getting everything together. It's like he's being tracked down to the restaurant by the lesbian groom.
I feel like what would have been a lot funnier with that scene, in particular, when she's coming in there, and that's a lady from SNL, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
When she's going in there trying to track him down, if he was just sitting there normal, because he's already in disguise and he was that confident about it, and then she confronts him and be like, really, you think that's a good disguise?
Yeah.
If I was trying to commit a fatwa on you, I could have, kind of thing, that's where that joke should have gone.
Yeah.
But instead, he's just like crawling around. It just felt weird for it. I don't know. It was-
that scene was a little weird.
I agree with you. That wasn't the payoff for me. I felt like the payoff in this episode, and this isn't the best example of that. Hopefully they get in the groove. But no, when what is Jeff's wife?
Susie.
Yeah,
Susie.
when she confronts him about the whole foisted thing.
Yeah.
I felt like that was the payoff for me.
I mean, I wasn't as amused with that as I was with hearing her in the background being really pissed off by what she realized. Because, whereas Larry will try and dance around trying to be nice about something he's pissed off about, she has, no filter, and she'll just be completely shitty about it.
That was amazing.
And it was great to have that as an off-camera joke, or, to the side joke that we know is happening there.
Yeah.
While Jeff's, talking to him about the fatwa thing.
I'll say this, though. Her punching him and yelling foisted did crack me up.
Yeah.
It's an easy joke, but it got me.
Yeah. And it's awkward seeing Larry David, this 75-year-old dude, it's Mr. Burns in the shower. I don't know. I mean, it's like...
I thought he was kind of in good shape for his age.
Yeah,
I was like, dang, he's taking care of himself.
He looked like a skeleton holding skin on
He
his
had
body.
some arms.
HBO,
He had some,
HBO's heard
mid-sized
the
guns.
complaints from Game of Thrones that there was too much female nudity, and they're trying to really even things out. So, male nudity across all ages.
I wish I saw his dick then.
Yeah.
All right, guys, TV News out.
You'll take the wiener?
I'm not saying that,
I'll
Brandon.
take the wiener.
That's your line, buddy. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up there. Thank you so much for checking out this episode. And you guys have a lot of comedy to keep up with, because we're going to have to be watching all of this except Great News, because that's a terrible show. So you guys have to be watching as well. We'll be back next week with another big slate of TV shows, and we appreciate all of you guys, and thank you especially to you patrons that you guys are helping us out. If you guys want to help us out, patreon.com/tvdudes, and in fact, right after this episode, we're going to record a Patreon.
Yeah, we're going to talk about old dudes in the shower.
You know what? Maybe we will. Thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Grant.
Until next time,
TV Dudes out!
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Permanent Record Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, please go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes, and help us out on iTunes by giving us a 5-star rating and writing a review. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and permanentrcrd.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.